You see, my dear friends, life is like a grand tree. Everyone admires its beautiful fruits, the achievements, the fame, the luxury, the recognition. People look at someone who has made it big and say, wow, look at their success. But very few stop to ask, what roots made that tree stand tall? We live in a world that celebrates results, but forgets the process. We celebrate the trophies but ignore the training. We celebrate the destination but forget the journey. The truth is, the strength of the tree lies underground, in its unseen roots. If the roots are deep, the storms can come, the winds can blow, but that tree will not fall. Similarly, if your inner foundation, your character, habits, values, discipline is strong, no challenge can uproot your success. Let me share something from daily life. Have you ever seen a gardener watering the tree? He doesn't climb up and pour water on the fruits. He bends down and nourishes the roots. The gardener knows that if the roots are taken care of, the fruits will come automatically. That's exactly how life works. But what do? We polish the fruits. We spend hours making ourselves look successful instead of actually becoming successful. For example, many young people today want instant fame. They want to go viral on social media, have followers, get attention. They want the fruit. But without consistency, without humility, without hard work, that fame is like a flower without fragrance. It looks good but doesn't last. If you build your image faster than your integrity, one day your image will collapse. Working on the roots means focusing on what people don't see. Your morning routine, your patience, your attitude when no one is watching, your ability to handle criticism, your honesty in small things. Those are your roots. You can't post them on Instagram, but they will determine your future more than any photo ever will. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine two students preparing for an exam. One studies a little every day, makes notes, revises, and keeps improving quietly. The other one parties, scrolls endlessly, and then studies all night before the exam. On the exam day, who do you think feels calm? The one with roots of consistency. The other one might pass once, but sooner or later, the truth shows. Success built on shortcuts is temporary. Similarly, in relationships, we often expect fruits, love, respect, loyalty, but we forget to water the roots, kindness, communication, and patience. When two people stop working on the small daily acts of care, the relationship begins to dry up. It's not because the fruit was bad, it's because the roots weren't nourished. Even in your career, it's the same. I know a man who once told me, Gaur Gopal Das ji, I want to grow fast, I want promotion, I want success. I asked him, how much time do you spend learning new skills, improving your mindset, becoming better at your work? He smiled shyly and said, not much. Then I told him, you want fruits without roots. That's like expecting mangoes from a seed you never planted. Life doesn't work like that. You have to plant the seed, water it daily, wait patiently, and trust the process. Every act of discipline, every moment of learning, every challenge you overcome, that's water to your roots. Success is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong investment in growth. The world today teaches us to shine outside, look confident, dress sharp, talk smart. And yes, those things are important. But what's the use of shining outside if you're breaking inside? What's the use of having a powerful phone but a powerless mind. We charge our devices every day, but forget to charge our inner battery, our soul. Working on the roots means building strength from within. It's about choosing patience over pressure, gratitude over greed, growth over comfort. It's about waking up each morning and asking yourself, what can I improve today? Not because the world demands it, but because you want to become better. There was once a bamboo tree that was watered every single day, but for 5 years, nothing came out of the ground. People laughed at the farmer. They said, "You're wasting your time. Nothing is growing." But the farmer kept watering it. After 5 years, suddenly the bamboo shot up almost 90 feet in just 6 weeks. Did it really grow in 6 weeks? No, it was growing underground for 5 years, building strong roots that could support that rapid rise. That's how success works. You might not see results immediately, but something powerful is happening beneath the surface. Every day you stay consistent. Every time you choose integrity over convenience, you are strengthening your roots. And when the time is right, you'll rise higher than you ever imagined. So, don't get discouraged when no one notices your effort. Don't give up because your growth seems invisible. Trees don't grow overnight. Flowers don't bloom instantly. Keep watering your roots. Keep showing up. Keep improving. Because when your roots are strong, the storm will pass and you'll still be standing tall. People often say, "I'll work hard when I see results." But that's like saying, "I'll start exercising when I lose weight." No, my friends, results are the fruit of the effort. You work first and results follow. Success is not something you get, it's something you grow into. When you focus on your inner growth, your discipline, attitude, and purpose, everything else naturally follows. The outer success becomes a reflection of your inner strength. So, from today, let's shift our focus. Instead of saying, "I want success," let's say, "I want to become the kind of person who attracts success." Because when you work on your roots, the fruits take care of themselves. Success is not about luck, it's about layers. Layers of effort, patience, honesty, and humility built over time. And the most beautiful thing about strong roots is this: they may not be visible to the world, but they make you unshakable from within. So, nurture your roots daily with gratitude, effort, and faith. Because remember, my friends, a tree doesn't grow by chasing the sunlight, it grows by strengthening its roots. And in the same way, your success starts not with the world outside, but with the world within. My dear friends, our mind is the most powerful tool we possess, yet, for many of us, it's also the most uncontrolled one. The mind can be your best friend or your biggest enemy. If you can learn to master it, you can conquer anything in life. But if you let it run wild, it can take you places you never wanted to go. That's why I often say, either you control your mind, or your mind will control you. Think about it. Every morning when the alarm rings, there are two voices in your head. One says, "Wake up, let's make the day count." The other says, "5 more minutes." Which voice wins? That decision may look small, but it determines the direction of your day, and over time, the direction of your life. Our mind is like a restless monkey, jumping from one thought to another, never sitting still. One moment we are focused on work, and the next We're thinking about social media, someone's comment, or an argument from last night, and then we wonder why we feel anxious and unfulfilled. If you want peace, if you want success, you have to learn to tame that monkey. You have to train your mind to listen to you, not the other way around. Let me share a story. Once a man complained to me, Swamiji, I can't concentrate. I start one thing, and my mind drags me to something else. I smiled and said, my friend, have you ever trained your mind? He laughed and said, no. But how do you train something you can't even see? I told him, it's like training a dog. You start small with patience, repetition, and love. You see, no dog becomes obedient overnight. You don't yell once and expect it to behave. You repeat, reward correct, and be patient. The same applies to your mind. The more you practice focus, gratitude, and calmness, the stronger those mental muscles become. Take a daily example. You're working on an assignment, and suddenly your phone buzzes. Your mind immediately jumps to it. Maybe it's a message, maybe a like, maybe something exciting. You open it just for a second, and that second turns into 15 minutes. What happened? Your mind distracted you, and you followed it blindly. Later, you feel guilty for wasting time. This is what happens when the mind controls you. But when you control your mind, you look at the phone and say, I'll check it later. Let me finish my work first. That's mastery. The difference between successful people and those who struggle is not talent. It's focus. Every successful person learns how to discipline their mind. They don't allow random emotions or distractions to dictate their actions. They decide what matters and stick to it. Imagine you're driving a car. The mind is like that car, powerful, fast, and capable of taking you anywhere. But if you don't hold the steering wheel, it'll crash. The steering wheel is your awareness. When you are aware of what your mind is doing, when you catch yourself drifting, comparing, overthinking, you can gently bring it back to the road. That's the art of living consciously. Our mind also loves to dwell in the past and worry about the future. It says, I shouldn't have said that, or what if things go wrong? But the truth is, neither the past nor the future exists right now. Only the present moment does. When your mind learns to stay in the present, you experience peace. You work better, you love deeper, and you live happier. Let's take another daily example. Suppose you're eating your meal, but instead of enjoying the taste, your mind is scrolling through thoughts. I have that meeting later. I need to reply to that message. I hope tomorrow goes well. The food is there, but you're not there. The body is eating, but the mind is somewhere else. That's why we often feel empty even after doing so many things, because our mind was never present. Training the mind doesn't mean you'll stop thinking. It means you'll learn to guide your thoughts. You'll become the master of the inner traffic. Meditation, journaling, prayer, these are ways to slow down the noise and reconnect with yourself. Even spending 5 minutes daily in silence can make a huge difference. It's like pressing the reset button on your mental system. Sometimes the mind will also play tricks. It'll whisper negative things. You're not good enough. You can't do this. What if you fail? When that happens, pause and remind yourself, this is just my mind talking, not the truth. You see, Your mind can create stories that never existed. Half of our stress is not from what happens to us, but from what our mind imagines could happen. There's a beautiful saying: the mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. When it serves you, it helps you think creatively, act wisely, and stay motivated. But when it rules you, it fills you with doubt, fear, and restlessness. The choice is always yours, to be its master or its slave. Think of your favorite athletes, artists, or leaders. Their greatest strength is not physical or technical, it's mental. They've trained their minds to stay calm under pressure, to stay focused when things go wrong, and to bounce back after failure. You can do the same in your life. Whether you're a student, a parent, or a professional, your success depends on how well you can manage your mind. Start small. When you wake up, instead of grabbing your phone, take a deep breath and set an intention for the day. When your mind complains, "I don't feel like working," smile and say, "Thank you for your opinion, but I'm still doing it." When your thoughts wander during work, gently bring them back. Slowly, your mind will start listening to you. Remember, discipline is not punishment, it's freedom. When your mind listens to you, you become free from distractions, fears, and regrets. You can focus, create, love, and live fully. So, control your mind before it controls you. Train it with patience. Strengthen it with gratitude. Calm it with prayer. Direct it with purpose. Because once your mind is in your hands, nothing outside can shake you. The world will always have noise, but peace will always belong to those who have mastered the silence within. My dear friends, have you ever noticed what happens in a race? The runner who wins doesn't keep turning his head to see who's behind him. He keeps his eyes fixed on his lane, his rhythm, his goal. The moment he looks to the side, he loses speed, he loses balance, and sometimes he even stumbles. Life is very similar. We all have our own unique track, our own timing, our own race. But the problem is, most of us spend our lives looking left and right, comparing, competing, and constantly questioning our worth based on someone else's progress. From the time we are children, we're taught to compare. Parents compare grades, teachers compare talents, society compares success. Look at your friend's marks. See how well your cousin is doing. They already bought a car. When will you? Slowly, without realizing it, we begin to measure our happiness through someone else's achievements. And that, my friends, is the first step toward losing our peace. Comparison is like a slow poison. It doesn't kill you instantly, but it eats away your joy quietly. When you look at someone's highlight reel and compare it with your behind the scenes struggles, you'll always feel like you're losing, even when you're actually doing well. You see someone smiling in a photo and assume their life is perfect, but you don't see their pain, their sleepless nights, their silent battles. Imagine two flowers in a garden, a rose and a sunflower. The rose blooms early, small and elegant. The sunflower grows later, tall and golden. The rose never complains, "Why am I not tall like the sunflower?" And the sunflower never asks, "Why am I not as fragrant as the rose?" Both are beautiful, both are successful, but in their own way. The problem with us humans is that we want to be every flower at once. We want someone else's beauty, another person's success, someone's lifestyle, and someone's timeline. but nature never meant for us to be copies. In daily life, you might see a friend getting promoted, a colleague buying a new house, or a classmate getting married while you're still figuring things out. The mind immediately starts comparing, why not me? And then frustration sets in. But what we forget is that everyone's journey has different seasons. Some people bloom early, some bloom later. Some take the straight road, others take the scenic one. And that's okay. The universe doesn't run on your clock, it runs on your growth. Let me share a simple example. Imagine you're baking a cake. You set the timer for 30 minutes, but then you open the oven every few minutes to check if it's done. What happens? The cake never rises properly because you didn't give it time. That's what comparison does. It makes you open your own oven too soon. Instead of letting yourself grow fully, you keep checking others and lose your focus. Then you wonder why your life isn't turning out right. Comparison kills gratitude. When you constantly think of what others have, you stop appreciating what you do have. You can't feel thankful and jealous at the same time. And gratitude is the foundation of happiness. I once met a young man who said, Swamiji, I feel like I'm not progressing. Everyone around me seems ahead. I asked him, ahead in what? He said, in life. I smiled and said, you mean they are ahead in their life, not yours? You can't measure your worth by someone else's journey because you are not walking the same path. Do you remember the story of the tortoise and the hare? The hare ran fast but took a nap, while the tortoise kept moving slowly and steadily and won the race. Now imagine if the tortoise had spent all its time looking at the hare and saying, I'll never be that fast. It would have stopped walking altogether. But it didn't. It stayed focused on its own lane, its own pace, its own race, and that made all the difference. In this age of social media, comparison has reached new heights. You see people posting their vacations, new cars, celebrations, and achievements. And your mind whispers, they're doing better than me. But remember, no one posts their struggles, their tears, their fears. You're comparing your reality to their filtered version. It's like comparing your rough draft to someone else's final copy. You don't know what sacrifices went behind their success. When you stop comparing, something magical happens. Peace enters your life. You begin to focus on what you can control: your growth, your habits, your mindset. You start enjoying your progress instead of feeling insecure about someone else's. You realize that success is not about being better than others, but about being better than you were yesterday. Think of a tree again. In a forest, no two trees are the same height, yet each one grows freely. The smaller one doesn't feel inferior, it just keeps reaching for sunlight. The taller one doesn't look down on others, it keeps standing strong. Together they make the forest beautiful. Life is the same. It's not a competition, it's a coexistence. Every time you catch yourself comparing, pause and ask, what lesson can I learn from this person instead of envying them? If someone is ahead of you, don't be jealous, be inspired. If someone is behind you, don't be proud, be kind. Turn comparison into admiration and competition into cooperation. You are unique. Out of billions of people on this planet, there is no one exactly like you. Not a single person with your mind, your heart, your story. That alone makes you special. So why waste your time trying to live someone else's life when you have the privilege to live your own? Remember, the moon and the sun never compare who shines brighter. They both shine in their own time, in their own way. So will you trust your timing, trust your journey, and keep running your own race? Because at the end of the day, success is not about crossing someone else's finish line. It's about crossing your own with peace, pride, and purpose. My dear friends, in the journey of life, we often come to a point where we must choose between what looks shiny and what feels meaningful, between popularity and purpose, between applause and authenticity. The world around us is loud, full of noise, competition, and a constant rush to be seen, to be liked, to be followed. But the truth is, real success is not about how many people know your name. It's about how peacefully you sleep at night, knowing that you stayed true to who you are. Popularity is seductive. It gives you attention, validation, and sometimes even opportunities. But it's like sugar. It tastes sweet, yet too much of it leaves you empty. Purpose, on the other hand, is like nourishment. It might not always taste exciting, but it sustains you from within. It keeps you going even when no one is clapping, even when the world isn't watching. Think about it. How many times have we seen people online showing perfect lives, perfect homes, perfect bodies, perfect happiness, and we think, wow, they've made it. But deep down, many of them are struggling to find peace because they're living for the camera, not for their conscience. They're chasing likes but losing themselves. It's like wearing a beautiful mask that smiles while the face behind it feels exhausted. Let me share a small story. There was once a young man who desperately wanted to be famous. He worked hard, built a big social following, and finally got the attention he dreamed of. But soon, he realized that every time he posted something, his happiness depended on the number of likes and comments he got. When people appreciated him, he felt alive. When they ignored him, he felt invisible. His peace became dependent on strangers he'd never met. One day, he came to me and said, "Swamiji, why do I feel so empty even after achieving what I wanted?" I told him, "Because you've been living to impress, not to express. You've been chasing popularity, not purpose. Purpose gives your life depth. Popularity only gives it decoration. One can be taken away overnight. The other stays with you forever. You might lose followers, but you can never lose your purpose if it's rooted in your values." Let's look at our daily lives. At work, we often choose to do what will make the boss happy instead of what is right. In school, we do what will make us look smart, not necessarily what will make us learn. Even in relationships, we sometimes say what people want to hear instead of what's honest. And we tell ourselves, it's okay, it's just a small compromise. But every small compromise chips away at your authenticity. Every time you silence your truth just to fit in, you lose a little piece of yourself. When you live with purpose, you're not easily swayed by opinions. You don't need everyone's approval because your direction comes from within, not from around you. Purpose gives you stability in a world full of trends. Trends change, people's opinions change, but purpose, that stays timeless. Take an example from nature. The sun doesn't rise to impress the stars. It rises because it has a purpose. to give light and warmth to the world. And even when clouds hide it, the sun doesn't stop shining. Similarly, when you know your purpose, you don't stop doing good just because no one notices. You keep shining because that's who you are. In life, there will be times when choosing purpose means losing popularity. You might stand alone, people might not understand you, but that's okay. Standing alone with integrity is far better than standing with a crowd that has lost its conscience. You see, it's easy to follow the crowd, but it takes strength to follow your calling. Let's take a real example. Mahatma Gandhi wasn't popular when he started his journey. Many people mocked him, criticized him, and doubted him. But he didn't seek their approval. He followed his purpose, truth and non-violence. And eventually, his purpose outshone every critic, every insult, and even every empire. The world remembers not the people who chased attention, but the ones who stood for something greater than themselves. Even in small ways, you can live your purpose every day. Maybe your purpose is to be kind, to help others, to create, to teach, to inspire. You don't need a big stage for that. You just need a big heart. Some of the most purposeful people in this world are never seen on screens. They're teachers shaping minds, mothers raising values, doctors saving lives quietly, volunteers feeding the hungry. They may never trend online, but they make a real difference in the lives they touch. When you chase popularity, you measure success by how many people clap for you. But when you live with purpose, you measure success by how many hearts you've touched. The applause fades, the impact stays. There's a beautiful peace that comes when you live with intention. You no longer have to wear a mask. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. You simply show up each day knowing that you're walking your truth. And even if the world doesn't notice, your heart will know. And that's enough. Remember, my friends, fame is when the world knows you. Fulfillment is when you know yourself. Don't let the noise of the crowd drown the voice of your conscience. Because one day, the crowd will move on to someone else, but you will still have to live with yourself. So ask yourself every day, am I living for the applause? Or am I living for my purpose? The applause will stop when the curtain falls, but your purpose, that will live on. Choose depth over display. Choose meaning over attention. Choose purpose over popularity. Because at the end of the day, true success is not when the world claps for you. It's when your soul smiles at you. My dear friends, every morning when we wake up and look into the mirror, we see our reflection. We see our face, our hair, our clothes. But the real question is, do we ever take a moment to look beyond what the eyes can see? Do we ever ask ourselves, who am I becoming? Because the mirror may show our face, but only our actions show our character. The mirror test is not about how we look on the outside. It's about how we feel on the inside when we face ourselves with honesty. There are so many people who appear successful from the outside, well dressed, smiling, confident. But when they look in the mirror, they feel empty. Why? Because deep down, they know they've compromised their integrity somewhere along the way. They know they've pretended to be something they're not. The truth is, it's easy to impress the world, but it's much harder to impress the person staring back at you from the mirror. Every night before you sleep, the mirror test silently happens. Your conscience asks you, did I live with honesty today? Did I do my best? Was I kind? Was I fair? And no matter how much you try to distract yourself, your inner voice always gives you the answer. You can hide from others, but you can never hide from yourself. Let me share a simple story. There was once a businessman who built a massive empire. People respected him, feared him, admired him. But one night, he couldn't sleep. He kept tossing and turning. Finally, he got up, looked at himself in the mirror, and realized that somewhere along his journey, he had lost the values he once believed in. He had become successful in the eyes of the world, but bankrupt in the eyes of his own heart. That night, he said something powerful. I have everything that money can buy, but I've lost everything that money can't. From that day, he decided to rebuild his life, not his business, but his inner world. We all face moments like that in life, moments when the mirror asks us uncomfortable questions. Maybe we lied to get ahead. Maybe we hurt someone to protect our ego. Maybe we betrayed our own principles just to fit in. In those moments, we realize that success without integrity is like a house built on sand. It looks strong until the first storm comes. The mirror test is not about guilt, it's about growth. It's about being brave enough to admit when you've gone off track and humble enough to correct it. We all make mistakes, but what defines us is whether we have the courage to face them honestly. Think about it in your daily life. Suppose you promised to help someone and then didn't show up. You might justify it by saying you were busy. But deep inside, that little voice will whisper, you could have done better. Or maybe you got angry and said something hurtful to a loved one. You might apologize. But the real forgiveness begins when you look in the mirror and promise yourself, I will do better next time. That's self-accountability, the foundation of a peaceful heart. There's something very liberating about living in a way that you can meet your own eyes without shame. When you look at yourself and feel proud, not because you're perfect, but because you're honest, that's true confidence. It's not about arrogance, it's about alignment. When your thoughts, words, and actions match, you feel light, you feel at peace. We often worry too much about how others see us. What will people think? What will they say? But what's the point of looking good to the world if you can't look proudly at yourself? The world's opinion changes every minute. Today they praise you, tomorrow they may criticize you, but your relationship with yourself lasts a lifetime. That's why it's so important to keep it clean, pure, and peaceful. Let's take another example. A student once told me, Swamiji, I cheated in my exams and got the top marks. Everyone congratulated me, but I don't feel happy. I asked him why. He said, because I know I didn't deserve it. That's the mirror test. The outer achievement means nothing if the inner self doesn't approve. True success is when you can look in the mirror and smile, not because you look perfect, but because you feel proud of the person you're becoming. When you've worked hard, stayed honest, treated people kindly, and stayed true to your values, your reflection will smile back with peace. The mirror also reminds us of something else. Change. Every day when you look at yourself, you see small changes, new lines, tired eyes, a few gray hairs. Life keeps changing. The question is, are you growing along with it? Are you becoming wiser, calmer, kinder? The mirror may show you the aging of your face, but only your choices show the maturity of your soul. You see, integrity is not built in one big moment, it's built in small daily decisions, choosing honesty over convenience, respect over pride, effort over excuses. Each time you do the right thing, even when no one is watching, you polish your inner mirror a little more. It begins to reflect a person of strength, character, and grace. And remember, the mirror doesn't lie. You can put on makeup, wear fancy clothes, smile for pictures, but deep down, you know the truth. The mirror knows when you've been kind, when you've been selfish, when you've been courageous, and the most beautiful reflection you'll ever see is the one where your inner world and outer world are in harmony. So tonight, when you stand before your mirror, don't just fix your hair or check your outfit. Look into your own eyes and ask, am I proud of who I am today? Did I live with integrity, compassion, and truth? If the answer is yes, smile, because you are succeeding in the truest sense. And if the answer is no, don't be harsh on yourself. Smile anyway, and promise that tomorrow you'll do better. That's how real growth happens. At the end of the day, it's not the reflection in the mirror that matters. It's the story behind it. And when that story is built on honesty, kindness, and self-respect, every time you look in that mirror, you'll see not just a face, but a soul that's truly at peace. My dear friends, one of the greatest lessons life teaches us, sometimes gently, sometimes through struggle, is that gratitude transforms everything. You see, the happiest people in the world are not those who have everything. They are those who appreciate everything they have. Gratitude is not just a word we say when something good happens. It's an attitude, a way of looking at life that changes how we see even the most ordinary moments. Every morning, when you open your eyes, you have a choice to focus on what's missing or to focus on what's present. Most people begin their day by thinking about what they don't have. I didn't get enough sleep. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. But what if, instead, we began our day with a simple thought, thank you. Thank you for this breath. Thank you for this body that works. Thank you for another day to try again. Because when you start your day with gratitude, your entire perspective shifts from complaining to appreciating, from scarcity to abundance. Think about this. When was the last time you truly felt grateful? Not just said, thank you, out of habit, but felt it deeply. Maybe it was when someone forgave you, or when you shared a meal with your family, or when a friend checked on you when you were feeling low. These little moments, my friends, are the true treasures of life. Gratitude makes ordinary things extraordinary because it teaches us to see the blessings we often overlook. There's a beautiful story of a man who used to complain that he didn't have good shoes. Every day he grumbled, "Why can't I afford better shoes?" One day as he was walking to work, he saw another man without legs, smiling and selling flowers on the street. In that instant, his complaints vanished, replaced by a wave of gratitude. He realized he had been blind to the blessings he already possessed. Gratitude opens our eyes to what's been there all along. So often, we take things for granted until they're gone. Our health, our family, our freedom, our peace. We assume they'll always be there. But gratitude invites us to cherish them now, before life teaches us their value through loss. Imagine, for example, when you catch a cold, suddenly you remember how good it feels to breathe freely. When you're away from home, you miss your bed, your mother's food, your comfort. Life constantly reminds us what you appreciates in value. In our fast-paced world, we're taught to chase more success, more possessions, more recognition. But no matter how high you climb, if you forget gratitude, you'll always feel empty. The richest person is not the one with the most money, but the one who feels the most thankful. You can live in a small apartment with a big heart and feel like the happiest person on earth. You can drive an old car but sing with joy because you have somewhere to go. Gratitude changes how we measure success, from how much I have to how much I appreciate. When you live with gratitude, challenges also take on a new meaning. You begin to see problems as teachers, failures as lessons, and pain as a part of growth. Think about it. Haven't some of the toughest moments in your life made you stronger, wiser, more compassionate? In hindsight, we often realize that even the things we once hated were blessings in disguise. Gratitude doesn't mean you ignore your struggles. It means you find meaning within them. There's a beautiful practice I often suggest every night before you sleep. Think of 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. Maybe someone smiled at you. Maybe you completed your work on time. Maybe you saw a beautiful sunset. When you do this daily, your mind begins to notice more beauty, more kindness, more good around you. What you focus on expands, and gratitude makes you focus on what's right, not what's wrong. Let's take a small daily life example. Imagine 2 people stuck in traffic. One is fuming, honking, frustrated, thinking, "Why does this always happen to me?" The other person, sitting in the same traffic, smiles, puts on his favorite song, and thinks, "At least I have a car, at least I'm safe." Both are in the same situation, but their experiences are worlds apart. The difference? Gratitude. Gratitude doesn't change the traffic, it changes you. You see, gratitude is like a magnet. The more you express it, the more it attracts reasons to be grateful. When you thank life for the small things, life trusts you with bigger ones. When you thank people sincerely, relationships deepen. When you thank your circumstances, even the difficult ones, you gain the strength to rise above them. One of the most beautiful expressions of gratitude is kindness. When you're truly grateful for what you have, you naturally want to share it. You smile more, you forgive faster, you help others more willingly. Gratitude turns me into we. It makes your heart softer, your words gentler, your presence more peaceful. There was a boy who once asked his teacher, "How can I be happy?" The teacher replied, "Count your blessings, not your problems." The boy said, "But I have so many problems." The teacher smiled and said, "Then count harder." That's the secret, not to wait for a perfect life to be grateful, but to find perfection in the imperfect moments. So, my dear friends, take a pause today. Look around you, the air you breathe, the people who love you, the lessons you've learned, the opportunities you have, the fact that you are still standing despite everything life has thrown your way. Isn't that something to be deeply grateful for? When you make gratitude a daily practice, you stop chasing happiness because you realize happiness was never missing. It was always here, hidden behind your expectations, waiting to be noticed. Gratitude doesn't give you a new life, it teaches you to fall in love with the one you already have. So every day, wake up and whisper, "Thank you." Not because everything is perfect, but because everything is a gift. Every breath, every challenge, every sunrise, every moment, the more grateful you are, the more beautiful life becomes. And that, my friends, is the true art of living